Hello there. It's Mike.
And Katie.
And it's episode 96. What are we talking about this week?
It's the Mummy episode. And more.
On this episode of Cup of Rad. Hey everyone. Guess what? We're back with another week.
Hooray!
Right now we're dealing with horrendous amounts of smoke in our area. It's all blowing out from California, Washington, and Oregon,
yeah, it's
out
all
to the
just,
Pacific, and then
it's
wrapping
coming
around,
and then it's just coming through Vancouver and moving east, and it's
getting bottleneck in the valley.
It's socked in here pretty bad. So
it's pretty sad. Can't complain though because it's not our fire. So safety and all that for all those away out that way that are dealing with the actual fires that are causing them problems versus just the smoke.
Yeah. Well, my parents have been dealing with smoke for so long now in that area, and it's just weird because we haven't had smoke at all all summer.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a shock for it because it's like
been
normally BC's on fire.
Yeah.
And we have the smoke down here, right? So, but yeah.
Well, they're warning about that because the dry conditions we've had. We haven't had a lot of rain this last month. So
yeah, it's been really dry.
They're saying we got to still watch out and be mindful that we could still have some forest fires in the coming as we go into a unusually still warm September.
Well, yeah, this last week here, I couldn't believe how warm some of it was for sure. So definitely it's been 5-10 degrees Celsius over normal. So it's pretty crazy.
Right?
Why not? It's the year of why not add this to it.
And why not listen to more Cup of Rad, right? Share it. Let people know about us so that we can continue bringing you some fun things for your ears. Because
it can be a fun indoor smoke-free scenario.
And social distance, but yet you can still have someone really close to you if you really like it.
Right here.
Yeah, there we are. How's it going? How you doing? It's like you have someone creepily behind you. It's close enough to almost kiss you.
Wow.
And that got awkward. But it's okay because we're friends and we see each other each week.
And we're awkward friends apparently. I saw there was this awesome meme my cousins were circulating of the tell your friends you love them. Tell them you love them so much it becomes awkward.
Right?
That's like, that's awesome. Why not?
We're at that point.
Yeah.
So not a lot of extra news this week. Not a lot of anything really coming out.
Yeah, it's been really quiet. Well, we got Wonder Woman was delayed again.
I'm in the boat where
everything's been delayed again.
Well, I think it's because they saw how Tenet didn't really do super well.
Yeah.
It's doing well, but not like, right home to your mama about.
I would like them to just drop it on streaming so I can watch it.
I wouldn't mind Tenet to drop on streaming so I can just watch it.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Because it's still our theater's only allowing 2 people together.
Yeah.
Right. So that being said, we talked about it multiple times that we're enjoying the at home experience, especially with the few on demands that we've been watching, because we're not having to deal so much with people
and their inability to stop talking during
or use their phones. And then we can do our own thing. We have pizza. We can do whatever we want. We don't
have to worry about when kiddos go to the bathroom.
Yeah. You don't have to wear pants. So there's a lot of benefits, especially the pants thing.
Mike has enjoyed his pajamas today. We did go to the gym.
We did go to the gym.
We did.
Yeah.
It's been good.
I'm trying to get my Thundercat abs so I can wear that lino cutout belly thing. Yeah. That's where my goal is.
Specifically, trainer asked, so what are your goals? I would like to be able to look like Lino's abs.
Right?
I mean, that's a goal right there.
That is a goal because for some reason he has a weird cutout. Everyone else, like Panther was just like, no, I'm not even wearing a shirt. Yeah. Right? Like, Lionel's like, no.
I'm going to wear kind of a shirt.
Yeah, I just want to show off this little bit here. This little.
It's like the exact opposite of what most people do.
Yeah.
It's like most people just want to cover up their stomach. He's like, no.
It's all about this.
We want to see this.
It's all about this. So yeah, besides that, still trying for Raph. Fingers crossed. But yeah,
I sit there all day, logged into the account, refreshing the page,
hoping, dreaming
it's going to be there. It's like this. It's this horrible, awkward moment where I hit refresh and it's not there. It's not.
That's the worst thing.
Is it going to be like oh my? Guess what? It's ordered. No, I haven't been able to have that satisfaction yet.
Or the it's sold out and I don't know how it's sold out.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's that shit. When did this happen?
But yeah, so we've been watching. What do you think we've been watching? Well, we've been watching Thundercats.
Oh,
Thundercats! Oh, right.
Because what else would we watch? It's just in the DVD player permanently.
Pretty much.
And that's not normal for us to leave that in there. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, what are we going to be watching next, Thundercats? So why take it out?
We're making our way through this. We've almost finished the first disc of the second part of the first season. Sounds really random, right? But we found something out today when we were watching. What did we find out?
Well, I had been looking at ahead of some of the episodes, and I saw there was this Lionel's anointment, day 1, all the way to day 5. And they were spread out like a good every 5 episodes or so, it seemed like.
For the entirety of the second part of the first season. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, this is strange, but maybe, over time, there's these trials that happen. Well, we watched the Anointment Day 1 today, and within the episode, it was supposed to be chronological. It is 5 days in a row. Yeah. And yet they are not aired that way. And so I looked it up. I thought, okay, well, maybe this was a different airing schedule. Like, is this in like production versus watch or something, And apparently that is the original way it aired when it first showed up. Yeah, so
the DVD, the box set is the way it aired.
But it's also the production one that I found. It also was that way. Yeah. And I could not find a chronological, so obviously we could go and watch the day 1 through 5 together, but then we just realized it was just irritatingly complicated.
Because there's only like 2 on each disc.
Yeah, so we'd have to like flip through them and everything, but it was really strange, like, why do that? And I thought about that, like, as a kid, it would be super frustrating where it's like, I have to do this at sunset right away, and then you lose that momentum, because all of a sudden it's like, where is this next episode taking place?
In 5 weeks later?
Has he actually maintained his status, or is this from before when he didn't have the trials there? Because these trials show up and he's supposed to be like proving that he can still maintain his Lord title, and yet who knows?
And it feels like it should have been the season finale, right? That's what it feels like, because it's leading up to, because each trial is a matter of like, will I survive and will I still be?
It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do,
right? There was a lot of that's what she said.
Oh, good gracious. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot today.
But one thing I've noticed though is, like, remember how last week we were all like, hey, guess what? It's not that bad. Like we've hit a bit where some of the episodes have been kind of repetitive.
Well, we watched 2 episodes in a row that were pretty much the same theme.
They lost their weapons. They couldn't use their weapons.
Yeah. And
the mutants broke into the cat slayer.
Yeah.
And it was like...
It's like, the mutants are in the cat slayer. How did this happen? It happened last episode.
Yeah. So it was a weird feeling of being like, oh boy, we're already there.
So had it been like 4 months between those 2 episodes and no one cared because the Thundercats were back?
Right? Or it was just the same writer. He was like, I don't know what else to write.
I really like that their weapons get taken away.
Yeah.
So
these should have been. So that's one of the things that's interesting to see, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still enjoying it. Besides that, like, especially seeing like Lionel do his trials. We watched 2 of the trials today. Mm-hmm. One was Power, where he had to defeat Panthro, and then the other one was Speed. He had to defeat.
I like that.
Defeat Chitara.
Yes.
Right. So.
Well, and I like that. For the Panthro one, honestly, the Panthro fight itself was obviously difficult because he just didn't want to do it. A lot of it, I think, was mental.
I'm not fighting you, Panthro. You're my friend.
Well, he just didn't. He had to get over that idea that he's not fighting to hurt him, or he's not insulting him or anything like that. He's think of it more of a training. That's what he needs to think of, which is funny because they never show him training. But he went through a whole lot of difficult terrain to get to Panthro.
Oh, yeah, he was pretty exhausted.
So he was like dying before he got there. And so that was, I think, part of that issue with that. But I thought it was so funny with him with that. Well, how on earth am I going to defeat Chitara? Well, the only way is going to find a way to be faster than her, which at least he realized that he had to go a different route and everything. And but it was a proof, though, in the end, because he ended up actually having to race her, that a long-term... the slow and steady idea, opposed to a burst of speed. Yeah. Overall, you have to push through, you have to persevere, So there's good lessons in all these. So I'm looking forward to see what the other ones are.
Right.
So he's got...
How dare you, Chitara, for throwing the race?
Oh, I like how she's like, oh, bitch, please. That I do not.
That would have made it better.
Right?
That would have, if she just dropped down on him.
So,
bitch, please.
Yeah. It was, don't you dare,
insult my speed.
that. Right? Yeah. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
But, Lion-O, I cannot handle the speed at that much. I can only be at flop speed.
God, and that whole episode that had Willa in it too, and their horrible, horrible voice acting of those women. At least Chitara was better with that one, right? But when she talks,
giving her a time.
It's so funny. Like, obviously that was what they were okay with and asking for. Yeah. And because there's so many times where she talks at total normal speed.
Yeah, it was just whoever was the voice director that day was just
whatever. Or make it sound slightly different. Yeah. Like, what?
You're tired.
But I thought that was funny though. He sees these other people and he's not letting them know like he's part of a test. He's just being a dick. Rude. I was gonna say I've already said yeah, he's just being a dick. He's just like, I can't talk to you right now. Don't help me. Don't do this. I'm like, whoa. I like how she's like, he's too, he's just too good to take help from a woman type thing. I'm like, yeah, this is what's happening is you're coming across very rude.
Toxic
because you can't
masculinity.
Exactly. You can't just say, hey, no, I'm doing a test. I have to do it myself. Like, let them know that you have reasons for your behavior.
Perfect.
Communicate. And be a little less douche. I haven't had to say that for a really long time. Anyways.
But yeah, so we're still enjoying Thundercats. We're still going through that. Kiddo is still loving it. He's decided that he seems like he wants to have it's based more on Roar, but like a Thundercats party for his birthday.
I think we are heavily influencing,
because in Roar there's Panthro's emergency meatball slubs, and he said I would like to have that for lunch,
and burritos,
and then the burrito dance party, and then the Thunder Snaps, so we're trying to figure out how we can turn that into a cake, maybe an ice cream cake with Thunder Snaps.
That would be fabulous.
So, but
I think that will have to happen,
right? I wonder if we'll still have Thundercats left by the time his birthday rolls around, or will that be the 2011
if we keep watching and binging on the weekends. But I don't know, things are going to change with it. We might not have as much free time on the weekends with him picking up school and everything. Who knows what we'll have, so we'll see.
So what else have we been watching?
The other thing we have dug into was we forgot about talking about last time was The Boys.
We talked about it a bit last time.
Oh, we did. You're right.
Yeah, just the new episode dropped.
Oh, I totally forgot we talked about it. There you go. It's been a long week, apparently. Longer than I realized.
This episode was slower than I thought that the other ones were. Like, the other ones had more, but this one you really got to experience the sick, twisted nature of Homelander and how
that made my skin crawl.
Like, that poor changeling dude.
Oh, yeah. That was disturbing on so many levels. Because it first started, I'm like, why is she back? Happening? What is happening? How is this real? This can't be real.
Is he just seeing it in his head?
Yeah, like that. I thought he'd gone crazy. And
he is crazy, but
a different version of crazy.
Right?
Oh yeah, that's disturbing. So,
and he turned into himself and was gonna have sex with himself.
Creepy skin crawl. So there's spoilers there for you.
Yeah. No, it's just it's a twisted show, and I'm curious to see where it's gonna go for sure. Like, it definitely is something that's...
I really want Homelander to... what's weird is he's creepy, but at the same time, and he's evil too, but you still feel some sympathy towards him, and it's a weird conflicting feeling because that he was totally messed up from the very beginning, and it's that sadness to see on how much they messed up his upbringing to make someone so twisted. And it no one is inherently evil, and he has been bred into this machine that thinks he is above everyone, and he is a lot of
it's because that entitlement, right?
Yeah, because you see in a fictional world, of course, you see the idea of Superman, who was bred to believe that he can help people and he is not actually better than anyone for his abilities. So it shows the environment is very, very important. But then now you have Stormfront, who just now she's coming out more and more just flat out evil.
Mm-hmm.
And with the new developments of things, and she's just like, no, I don't feel anything bad for her. Like, when something's going to go sideways for her, she deserves it because she just is scary and mean and hateful.
Yeah,
and, she has those moments where she's saying some really good things about questioning Vought, but I don't know if she's really doing it for the right reasons. And it's an interesting reflection on the world right now, especially with the last thing she was talking about, the idea of like, you're not connecting with your base, but if you throw passion and anger in there, then you have a connection, and people will. I'm not creating fans. I'm creating an army.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really poignant, hit the nail on the head there for the world right now.
You can tell how much they're writing for the topicalness as well. They're telling their story about current events through this as well, right?
Exactly. So,
what's becoming your latest obsession?
So my latest obsession, is Lucifer. I have started digging into that on Netflix. I was interested on it way back from when we went to Fan Expo, and I went to the Tom Welling. I had it in my head. I'm like, bleh. Tom Welling panel, and he was talking about that. There's people talking about it, and I was like, oh, interesting, And I dug into that one night when you were out doing something, and it's been really interesting because it's like a crime drama, which I wouldn't have expected, and it's a different take. And I like stories that are based in that mythos like that. And I thought, because it's interesting, the idea that if with all of that being real and it almost runs like any other family, the way he talks about his family is it's not any more special. It's just has extra powers basically. And I thought that's been interesting. So you've been watching it with me because
it's pretty good.
And it's got a certain amount of edginess and sex to it, which is, I enjoy shows like that, and it's something different, right? And I think it's also too is just, again, something different. I've been watching, we watch Grey's Anatomy, and there's only so much new that can come out of that now. The show is so old, and it starts repeating some of those same feeling. So something a little bit more fresh.
Like and taking the crime drama shows that you like and mixing it with super.
I used to love watching Criminal Minds and CSI and all those type of stuff. So this is fitting that in there, right?
Yeah.
And it's so different than like say something like The Boys, right?
Yeah.
This was a little bit more feel as much as you can with the crime aspect of it. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. So
I saw too that the guy that plays Lucifer said that he always wanted to play Doctor Who. So this was kind of his Doctor Who. Oh, and as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my God, that is so true. The way he handles himself and talks, and the feeling like if I put the Doctor in that situation, walks in, just thinks that he knows everything. Yeah. Usually does. Knows so many right things. Always just gets the job done in weird ways and doesn't tell everyone the whole thing. And yeah, that's all I could see now after that was just Lucifer Doctor. Yeah. So we've just started season 2 now. Yeah. So blast through that. Yeah. And we just watched the first episode. So, and that's what I see now is Doctor Who, Lucifer, which is fabulous. So we've gotten a couple more episodes into the latest season, not the latest, but the last season that we have left of the modern Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And I'm really enjoying the Bill companion way more than Clara. Yes. And the Doctor is a lot different now than he was. Well, because for a while there was like, oh, we gotta watch Doctor Who. Okay, we enjoyed it, but we're kind of having it's starting to feel like it's like out of necessity, right? Yeah, and then this one it was like, oh, yes, this was awesome. I want to watch Doctor Who tomorrow. Yeah. Because he was actually solving problems, and it wasn't so the overall story. It was a weird little snippet of something. Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to that. And we're almost finished that, and then we'll watch all the modern Doctor Who. Craziness. Which is pretty wild. Yeah. Yeah, because I like him overall as a Doctor. He has really grown on me. But I think it was being dragged down by Clara's story for sure. Yeah. So she's like the longest running companion, but the one I don't like the most. Yeah. Which is sad, really, right? So, yeah, that was definitely like, okay, yeah, you can leave now. We're good. We're big on with you. We're good with that. Time for a change. So our main feature is The Mummy. And The Mummy Returns, Universal's 1999 and 2001 classic runaway hits. And the reason why we're doing that is because the spooky season is upon us. At least it's upon me.
It's upon Mike. It's still summer for me. I'm not ready to let go.
My goal is, I hope, to bring horror or monster-based episodes leading up to Halloween.
Yeah.
Some form. I've already gone through and found a whole bunch of things that are on our different streaming services.
So we're already overwhelmed with the amount of movies that we have to watch in the short amount of time before Halloween. Like we are every single year.
No. But we're going to try to find more ones that we can kind of invite kiddo into.
Yeah. Well, see, my reason for wanting to watch The Mummy, which was actually before his spooky season, was because me and kiddo are reading Rick Riordan Kane Chronicles. So we're reading now about Egyptian mythology. And like Imhotep, the name had shown up in the book, and we were talking about all these different gods. And I was like, oh, we should watch The Mummy. I think you're old enough for that now. And that was the reason why we're watching it. And then Mike decided it was going to tie into spooky season. So, boom.
It had 3 degrees of...
You just had to give your own reason as to why, because it didn't matter that we were reading the Kane Chronicles.
No, it wasn't that. It was just like, it was a good kickoff to it, because when we watched it, the night we watched it would have been the start of Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, it's actually really cool.
And the fact that Halloween Horror Nights is not going on because of Corona. Mm-hmm. All right. They've canceled all those events. And I was kind of like, well, no, this is perfect because we'll watch that. It's a couple movies. It ties into the monster theme. They're, silly, but still they have some scares, good for kiddo. Mm-hmm. And it can follow into that whole RADnesia aspect, right? Yeah. And it's that thing we're kiddo. We always talk about it, and I don't want to wait until October to start the Halloween movies because I think we'll have enough time. Yeah. So if we kind of do a long haul, because usually we would have had that list of all what we've been doing the last few years is watching all the movies that would have been at Halloween Horror Nights. Yeah. Right. And then I'm being able to show you some that you've never seen because maybe you wouldn't have seen it because, well, it's not in your wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then...
Well, this was a good kickoff because it's not
scary.
Something we think of as a horror movie, right? But at the same time, there's some pretty horrific things that actually do happen in it. But to us, it's still just an action movie, right? Yeah. And, but yeah, it's still some pretty intense stuff there.
Well, what's interesting, too, is the fact that, Universal made their name off of horror movies back in the original with the Frankenstein, the Dracula, and the Mummy with Boris Karloff. Yeah. And this was a way that they were trying to revigorate it, right? Mm-hmm. And they went for that campy, Pulp Fiction hero style versus the spooky horror movie, like now Blumhouse is doing with their revamp of the Universal Monsters with Invisible Man, right? So the movie stars Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, and it was directed by Stephen Sommers. Mm-hmm. When it came out, it was a smash hit. It was one of those things where no one expected it to be as big as it was. Yeah. Because Brendan Fraser, he was in Pauly Shore movies. Yeah. Right? Who would thought that, Encino Man would have been an action star? Yeah. Right? And now he's had his third win now with Doom Patrol playing Robot Man, right? So he's become this timeless Hollywood. He's been in all these eras, right? With these hits.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that movie was huge.
Oh, it was huge. I had a friend that when that thing hit VHS, VHS. He watched that. I remember the first day. He never bought movies. He bought Star Wars movies and Star Trek, right? That's what he bought. Yeah. The Mummy came out, and he loved that movie. Empire, Phantom Menace came out the same year, right? But when The Mummy came out on VHS, it was this is my jam. And I remember calling him, and he was like, I can't do anything. I'm watching The Mummy. I'm like, didn't you just watch that? He's like, yeah, I watched it yesterday. I'm like, dude, how? And then I was like, how about tomorrow? He's like, we'll see.
But I'm gonna be watching The Mummy.
And it was a Saturday, and I was like, dude, let's do something. He's like, No, I'm watching The Mummy again. I'm like, this is like 3 days in a row. He's like, yeah, this is the third time I've watched it today. I'm like, you gotta wear that thing out. Like,
that's a whole new level of obsession.
He loved that thing. It was just one of those ones. It was just a storm, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of the Mummy is that, well,
they find this awesome cursed tomb, and they're trying to find the Book of Amun-Ra. And in order to find that, then they're digging around, and these other, of course, there's always a competing team, and
the Americans.
Woo-hoo!
Pew, 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 pew.
It's so funny. They're full on like cowboys. It's hilarious. Stereotype up to the nines. And they show up and they unearth the actual cursed box. So they themselves get cursed. And at the same time, Evie and O'Connell have unearthed the mummy remains. And, it's cool because you see the actual, what had happened. And that was the really horrific part. Like I forget that I probably haven't watched this on like disc as many times. When I was younger, it probably was a lot of TV. And so some of that stuff would have probably been more edited out.
The bugs.
But that was super, super intense. Talking, just the idea that their curse of burying them and mummifying them alive, and all these horrible things, chopping up bits and wrapping them up and lighting them on fire and God knows what else felt like. And it was really intense. Kiddo's face was kind of like, oh gosh, what have I gotten myself into? And so you get to see this giant curse, and then when you're watching them unbury all of this, it's like, no, please stop. Oh my God, please stop. You have no idea. Oh my God.
Right.
And they read this, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to be cursed. That's nice. And they open up the box. And oh, they're cursed. Right. So they reincarnate said mummy, Imhotep, and yeah. It's bad stuff, man. It's bad stuff.
It hits the fan.
And it hits the fan. So yeah, he's trying to reincarnate his love, of course, which got him cursed in the first place because it was the Pharaoh's wife.
All about a girl.
Always about a girl. And, that was pretty, of course, that's why he was cursed, was for killing the Pharaoh along with her. And, pretty much the worst thing you could do. Which is why that was the only time they ever used that curse. Now, I still question many times when they're like, these is all the horrible things that could happen if this happens.
If you open this.
And yet they still set it up. They can't just kill him. They have to leave the potential door open for horrifying monster.
Yeah, that was a bad part on the
I don't understand it.
But I guess the idea though, that there was that like idea of seeing it and be like, damn, this is scary. Don't touch that.
They never understood the concept of someone not listening to the warnings.
How many years later would come and be like, psh, whatever, supernatural hoodoo.
Right.
I can handle it because I got my pea shooters. Yeehaw! Pew, pew, pew.
Thank you for that.
That's my American impression. I'm sorry. If you're offended. But that's what the mummy
But that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I thought it was interesting because for them, of course, Egyptian mythology, they had to... it's not like it wasn't enough to punish them in life. They wanted to punish him in death as well, right? And so that's a whole other complexity of something, which I understand with their curse idea, right? But you would have thought it would have been enough to mummify him alive and have him eaten by bugs. And they scratched off the markings on the sarcophagus so that he didn't have that afterlife.
Somewhere funky.
Yeah, so all these sort of things, and it's like, why give him the ability to reincarnate and
come back and destroy the world?
Yeah, I don't understand that. And, she's Anaxu Mu. We're going to call her Anaxu. Let's be honest, her name's really hard to say, and they say it so many times, and they say it so fast.
Well, and also, too, the thing we were watching...
I think it's Anaxu Namun, I think is what it is.
The subtitles were, like, minuscule.
Oh, yeah, on Amazon Prime, I have to lean forward to the TV because they're, like, 10 font on the TV, and... But she's the one, she helped kill the Pharaoh as well. So, why is she not more cursed? She was actually properly mummified with her canopic jars and all that sort of stuff. Like, why did they leave that open for him to be able to try to bring her back or anything? Like, there just seemed like they were just setting themselves up for disaster. But,
yeah.
how long at the same time the protectors actually did keep it protected for so long?
Yeah, it wasn't until we got pea shooters, y'all.
Yeah, until that happened. So, beyond the fact that, the Egyptians did not think that something wrong was going to happen, What are your thoughts on the movie itself?
You know, the Mummy actually, for what it is, it's a fun supernatural action comedy. It's like a Marvel movie before Marvel movies still.
Yeah.
Like I've said that before on all of them. Like it literally just feels like what we would consider a Marvel movie now.
Yeah.
The laughs and the humor and the action, you know, the peril.
Well, and with what I like too, I had commented was that it's something like this, if it was made now, would have lots of swearing in it, probably sex too. And this is something we can actually show kiddo with. There was the bit of the horror aspect, but otherwise it was okay for him to see.
Yeah.
And I really like that, you know, a little bit more.
Well, it's interesting because this was PG-13 in 1999.
Yeah.
And a PG-13.
Because they were mummifying people alive.
Yeah. Well,
and bugs were crawling inside of them and devouring their flesh. It was horrible.
Yes. But you can explain this more to someone that's in that
I know.
beginning age of like...
Because that would be a G now.
Yeah, right? This would be not rated. This would be, you know, direct to TV.
Right.
Because when we talk about, like, say, like some of the Fast and Furious, they're PG-13, but they have swearing and sex and all that in it. And it's like the ratings don't match. But anyways, you know, I really actually still have a lot of fun with that original Mummy movie. It's just a classic Universal movie. Mm-hmm. You know, even not all the effects, but there's a lot of effects that actually still stand up pretty good.
Yeah.
There's some ones that you're just like, whoa, that's dated.
You know what's impressive is we've shown kiddo so many different levels of movies. He's actually becoming a little movie critic himself. Yeah. He'll point out the effects the same way that you will. Be like, oh, that one was really good. That looks really cool still. Or, wow, that looks really bad. You can totally tell that's a green screen. Yeah. He's getting an eye for that, and I thought that was really interesting. But there was a few times he was, like, full-on clung to me. It was quite funny. So.
Well, because there's those jump scares in, right? Those scares where it just kind of, like, throws you off.
Well, I know you were talked about, too, a lot of the practical mummies that they did use. Those ones
they used a lot
really
of practical
cool.
effects in it as well. Like the mummies that burst from the ground and stuff like that. That was all people in costumes and all that. So I think that's just something that's super cool to see. You know, it was kind of the beginning of the CG, and they used the CG when they really couldn't use any other effects. Yeah, when something was being
cut up and reformed and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, or like the giant sandstorms, and you know, or like when his jaw hyperextends, like they used it more in those, or when they were crawling on the walls, versus in a lot of cases where it was more.
They're just walking around.
The bugs, the sea of bugs and stuff like that. So, fun fact though, before I first say is that. The scene where Brendan Fraser is being hung, he actually was hung to the point of being knocked out and had to be resuscitated.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. Because you said they wanted close shots of him, right?
They wanted, like, all the far shots were of a stuntman with proper rigging, and then they wanted close shots, so they were pulling on him, and it says that the director blames Fraser because he went up on his toes when he should have stayed flat-footed. And it caused the guy to pull harder, which then basically choked him out. And then he woke up and he had the EMT, you know, resuscitating him. So, like, that's just like one of those ones where that could have gone so horribly wrong.
Like, oh my God.
It was like one of the first scenes in the movie, too, I think, that they filmed. Like, wow. So you could have easily had
I guess it would have made sense if to have him have his hair grown out or something like that too, you know.
So the idea that you could have had a haunted movie, you know, it could have been a cursed film, but it didn't. So how did it hold up for your RADnesia?
You know, for me, I remember watching this many times when I was younger. My parents are huge fans of this movie, and I love the mythology aspect behind it. So that really makes me excited. So but I hadn't seen it for a long time. I was curious to see if it would still hold up to it. I still really enjoyed it. You know, you still find that corniness, but it's like, okay, it's 20 years old. It's okay. And I still really had a good time. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, my ongoing, like, usual hate romances in movies. This I was totally okay with because it feels a little bit more genuine feel, I guess. And because it's not the crux of it, right? Yeah. And I got all swept up in the adorableness of them finding their oohs and ahs and lusting after each other. Nice. So that was one thing that I thought was funny. I was just like, yep, totally okay with this.
So the Mummy, the original 1999 is a fantastic. I still think it's a fantastic fun movie. Yeah. Like it's just a popcorn. It's not. You're not gonna be like sitting there scared. So this is like the intro to light stuff for horror. We'll get into deeper, terrifying. Darker stuff later.
Bugs eating.
We'll find some gruesomeness. I'll try to get you to watch something.
D-list horror movies.
I found that Robo T-Rex one.
It's gonna be so awful.
No. We'll find some
ice sharks.
Ice sharks. I don't want to watch shark movies.
No.
So 1999 hit. The Mummy hit big. It was huge for Universal. It just blew the roof off. And so they said, from the first weekend, box office returns, yo, dude, you got to make a sequel.
Oh my goodness.
So Steven Sommers went, okay, I'll write you a sequel. It'll be bigger, badder, larger budget, all this. 2001 rolled around. The Mummy Returns comes out. And it is a steaming pile of dog poop.
Oh, when we were done with The Mummy, I was like, so, I asked kiddo, we're going to watch Mummy Returns. And I said, so, watching the conclusion of this movie, does this movie feel like it needs a sequel? No.
Now, it easily could have a sequel.
It could have.
Because the characters are likable. The tomb raiding thing is still available to them.
But it should have gone in a completely different direction than what it had.
And so the Mummy Returns, in itself, has a giant continuity error that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me angry.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me angry that the producers and everyone just said, no one will notice. Okay, so The Mummy takes place in like 1926, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Mummy Returns takes place in 1933. Their son is 8 years old.
Let's do some math. Doesn't take much to realize that does not work.
He says he's 8.
Yes. So they were just got together at the end of that movie, too. Mm-hmm. So there's
not enough time.
Not enough time.
So he assuming is not Rick's son. And
no, still not enough time.
She had somebody else on the side.
So she had a kid somewhere else. Before the movie, this kid was over at the babysitter's. And she ran off on this adventure.
And then was like, hey, I have a son. And he's like, oh, I guess I got to take him.
I like that story.
Right?
That's how we explain it.
You know what? I was looking it up. And Steven Sommers basically said that they wanted to put a kid in the movie. That was more like the producer's thing but that's the number one thing that ruins movies. I'm sorry. Like, I love my kid and I love kids. Kids are fun.
They ruin
But
things.
when you put them in a movie like that, like it shouldn't have had a kid in the movie.
No.
It should have just
hanging out by himself in an Egyptian temple ruin is not the best place for a child.
Yeah.
While they're off, gallivanting, finding, treasure.
Well, especially when you're going to just lie to us and tell us that it's been 8 years when it hasn't been 8 years. Yeah. It's clearly only been a few.
Because if they had actually, gone farther and done the proper chronological, you pointed it out, then it would have been war times, and there would have been problems.
But the reason why Steven Sommers did that, he actually said he didn't want to work with babies.
Okay.
So he just fudged the time-space continuum.
If you had actually done the proper time for a child of that proper age, it would have been so much more difficult. And then he wouldn't have been able to be part of the story like he was because he would have been too young to actually understand and do anything at all.
So
I can't imagine our son being like he was at 8 years old and being able to do all that sort of stuff. So he still feels like he's probably at least 10.
Right. So that's one of the things where it's like they
started off right off the bat,
like,
just awful.
Yeah, like.
Well, then it got into it's just weird.
It's too much.
Little too much mythos with it because now she is remembering she's super connected with them with a past life. She's actually Nefertiti and the pharaoh's daughter who actually fought Anaxunamun and actually witnessed them kill the pharaoh. Like, super involved now with this, and she's seeing all this stuff, and now they're all connected. And by the way, Anaxunamun is back, reincarnated Barty. He actually manages to now another group of people found the Pharaoh. I mean, Imhotep, sorry, and they brought him back to London. And now, oh, by the way, you thought you killed me, and you did all this stuff, but I'm back now.
Nothing you did in the first film actually really had any weight to it.
And he reincarnated himself much quicker than he did in the original movie. It was like, oh, I learned from my mistakes. You know, we figured this out faster. Now we're better at this.
Stronger than before.
Exactly.
He had the Zeo crystals.
Yeah. And, it's just weird connections and things. And then we throw in the Scorpion King.
Yeah.
Because then, oh, by the way, there's this other horrible thing that we're trying to fight against now. And, we learn about this whole other mythos.
Now, wouldn't it be just cooler if the idea that they found the bracelet and one of them put the bracelet on by accident, and then they started the clicking, the time thing, and they had to get to the temple in the 7 days.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe there was the rival group that was like, well, if we get there first, maybe we can control the Scorpion King and just leave out the Imhotep.
Yes. See, and that would have been better, because bringing back him and adding all of that into it, there was almost
it softens the first one.
It softens the first one, exactly. It lets it off where it's not as much of a big deal. And it took the gusto out of that one, right? And
especially watching them back to back like this, right?
Yes. And
seeing that and being like, well, man, you know how disheartening that would have to be? All the stuff he went through to try to kill Imhotep, and then he's just like, surprise, I'm back.
Right?
And there's more.
But wait. And yeah, exactly. I mean, you could have had the idea the mummy returns, but there is a lot of mummies in Egypt.
The Scorpion King could have been a mummy.
Like, why can't it be another creature, another cursed mummy? You could have told a very similar story, but it would totally different in the reason for the curse, how you would defeat it, the reason why they're fighting, all that sort of things, right? So, when they told all of the story about the Scorpion King, I figured that seems like a place for the Scorpion King to be the main villain, but it's still Imhotep. And then the Scorpion villain is an unbelievable letdown. Like, it's not even funny.
Oh, it's funny.
Oh, but it's
Sharknado just funny.
It is
CG. Like, it makes everything that looked amazing in The Mummy.
Yeah.
You're like, this was how many? This was like 4 years later. This looked like a video
game.
And it just was horrible. But why did he have to come out like a giant scorpion? With
not even
pierces?
Like an actual scorpion.
True. He had extra pinchers. And we all know that bothers Katie when they're not the actual thing they're supposed to be. He's like a centaur scorpion. That would have been cool. But why did he have to have claws on his hands with the claws that he had?
I know, right?
He was clawful.
I have no words.
And then the
how horrible it is.
pygmy mummies. Like they were like, were they monkeys? But were they humanoid monkeys?
I don't know. They look like monkeys.
They didn't have tails.
They look like Jack from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. So you know what?
Okay. So this, what's interesting is I knew that there was this movie, and I can tell that I barely watched it when I was younger. And I just wrote it off because there was a lot of it. I don't remember the Scorpion King part.
Yeah.
I remember the kid, and so I don't think I really paid this much attention when I was younger.
You should have. You should have now.
I can see now why.
Like, it was one of those ones where I was like, you know what? I don't remember watching this. I don't remember it, but I remember being angry about it. And so, like, we've had those movies where we watch them like, oh, I don't really feel that angry about this. But no,
this one.
I watched it and I was like, damn, it's still so bad.
Like, there's some interesting moments for it, but honestly, the interesting parts come from like learning about like the Book of Amun-Ra and the Book of the Dead and Osiris
there's a good idea
and like all of those types of things. And I also loved the whole romantic side. It was adorable how lovey-dovey they were. I thought it was adorable. Those are my favorite parts of the movie, and that speaks volumes to what it is, because that shouldn't be your favorite parts of an action movie.
Right.
Like, the whole thing at the very end with the Scorpion King was atrocious beyond atrocious.
The Anubis warrior fight was amazing.
That was fantastic. So even if it had been them, all of that stuff would have been cool. But the Scorpion should have
been the Rock.
Been the Rock.
Why did
it should have just been a person, a big scary ass warrior that would have been like, I don't know, make him control scorpions. I don't know. That would have been scary. But yeah, why did he have to turn into a? Because they never even explained it.
No, they saved that for the movie The Scorpion King.
I don't know.
So you know what I realized when I'm looking at Steven Sommers' IMDb, like his filmography and all that, he literally was a one-trick pony.
Yeah,
he did The Mummy, and then everything else he did failed.
What else did he do?
The Mummy Returns, Van Helsing, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra.
Oh.
And then that killed his career. He did Odd Thomas. I haven't watched that one.
Oh, okay.
But that
never heard of it.
That was a Dean. It's a Dean Koontz.
Oh, okay.
One. But that was the last one he made, and that was like 2016.
Oh wow.
He's not even like producing or writing anymore. Like it literally.
Like I enjoy Van Helsing for what it is, for the idea of it, but it's not a good movie.
It's one of those movies that is so bad you love to watch it.
Yeah.
It's a high quality like C movie, right?
Exactly.
Where it's better than watching some of those ones you find on Amazon or those places where you're like, this is a bad movie. And it's terrible, or like sci-fi. Yeah. It's a better version of one of those movies.
Exactly, right? So there's nothing like great about it. But yeah, of course, The Mummy was definitely a good quality film.
Everything was great about it. And it's like he didn't really do anything. Deep Rising came before that, and that wasn't that good. It was like this movie made, like The Mummy made him. And I was like, I don't know, did it all go to his head? And he's just like, I am amazing.
Yeah.
And then just
now I'm just reliving Mummy Returns, and I just keep thinking of all these scenes, and now I've gotten just really irritated.
Right? It's annoying.
Like, and then there's this, and then there's this. Oh, and then there was this.
So my buddy that loved The Mummy, he did not like The Mummy Returns.
Well, thank you. Kudos on that. I'm glad.
So,
because I would have questioned him.
No, it was just like everything that he. I think he went home and watched The Mummy to cleanse
his palate.
Yeah, he was like, why do I like this franchise? Why do I like this movie? It's not a franchise, it's a single movie. It's only a single movie. Why did you hurt me so bad?
So that was our Mummy watch.
So we did not watch the original Boris Karloff. I don't have that one on disc, but I'd like to try to find it.
I've never seen it, so
we'll see if we can find that. We didn't get to The Mummy, the Rise of the Dragon Emperor or whatever it was.
I have seen that movie more than the second, the Mummy Returns.
The third one?
Which is odd, yes.
Really? I only really remember watching it once with you in theaters.
I thought I remember that one.
Huh.
I don't. Maybe I just remember it better.
Maybe
I blocked the other one out. I don't know.
And then, of course, the Tom Cruise one.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that movie, so I would like to watch it again. Yeah. We'll see.
It'd be interesting to watch it again to see how it is after.
If the Tom Cruise gloss has come off of it, or if it's, I don't know.
Well, after watching these and seeing, So here's fun thing about The Mummy. This is like a personal story-wise, too, because that's why you're here. You want to hear fun facts and personal stuff. You don't care about our actual opinions of movies. So Universal Studios had a permanent maze for a few years of The Mummy. And it came out around for The Mummy Returns. And the maze was very similar to something they would have up for Halloween Horror Nights. And I'd always wanted to go to Halloween Horror Nights forever. Even when, like, a few times when me and my mom would go to California and stuff like that. Like, even when we went to Universal in Orlando and all that, we'd gone in October. And I'm like, I want to go this. And she was like, no, it's too scary. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
So that it always been. So when we went in 2001 with you, they had the maze up, the permanent maze that you could walk through. And after lots of convincing,
a complete and utter scaredy cat. I do not. So a fear of my own, like I can have panic attack. Most people don't like people following behind them, of course. I mean, it's a normal thing. But like, I really am easily scared, and I don't like the idea of something being behind me at all. And I was just not at all prepared to deal with something like that. So he convinced me to go into this maze, but I needed him right behind me.
Well, it said it for 13 and up could go into it. So I was like, it can't be that scary.
Stop being a wuss.
Right?
No, so I needed him behind me so that nothing could attack me from behind.
Yeah, so we're going through it, and mummies pop out from little windows and doors, and little things pop up and all that. And the fun thing is that actually on the Mummy Returns, this is the best thing about the Mummy Returns disc, the DVD, the special features, there's actually a walkthrough of that maze. Now, in that maze, it doesn't show you where all the mummies popped out.
And it was lighter.
Yeah, it was brighter. And I'm like watching, I'm like, oh, but something would pop out there. And like,
yeah, I'm looking at this, I'm like, that is not nearly as scary. What was I complaining about?
Right. But it doesn't show you where things pop out. So we're walking through this thing way back in the day. And, she's in front of me, and she grabs onto my hands and pulls me closer.
Because nothing can get between us because something might attack me, and totally irrational.
And a mummy pops out from would have been her left. Mm-hmm. And she goes, oh my God! And throws her head back into my head.
And perfect head to nose height.
Yeah, perfect head to nose height. And it didn't break my nose. It just fractured some of the cartilage. It was clicking the rest of the trip.
Yeah, it's been a little crooked ever since.
Yeah. So
he likes to remind. He's like, oh, good. He shows Kiddo. He's like, I can show you where your mom broke my nose.
Yeah.
Thanks. Now, since then, I went on one more walkthrough maze. Which was the Van Helsing. I am absolutely terrified of werewolves. The idea, because when I was much younger, very horrible experience being chased by werewolves at a Halloween event when I was younger. So it was scary. But then we went through that, and there was werewolves that were chasing me, and that was terrifying. But after all that, now flash forward many, many, many years, he convinced me to go to Horror Nights, and we
went to the Van Helsing maze, and this is what's funny because the maze for the Van Helsing maze, because it was the same maze overlay of the Mummy.
It's the exact same layout. Because there's Anubis warriors in the Mummy one
at the very end. Yeah. But there's even the bridge that you walk across to get it.
It was like same layout, just different.
Yeah, different. They repainted the brick from tan to gray. They just added in like the electro kind of stuff. I think they even used mummies in the maze. But at the very end, the Mummy maze, there was giant Anubises that were standing, and then one of them attacks you, right? Mm-hmm. So in the Van Helsing maze,
they were werewolves. Not okay.
And she wouldn't leave the room.
Not okay.
She got to she saw the giant werewolves, and she would not leave the room.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to pull her because I'm like, I'm not getting behind you because I remember what happened last time.
Yeah.
And so we had to like pull her out, and I think they even one of the people handlers, I think because there's always people at the exits. I think they had to put up a sign to the costume actor of the thing to just don't move.
Like I had a full on anxiety attack.
Yeah.
So that is based on of course prior freak out experiences.
And one thing too, I also remember is when we were walking through the maze, you started panicking, right? And the Igor character had come up, and he was being super creepy. And so one thing, my mom goes up to the guy and was like, "Hey, you want a cinnamon roll?" Because she was carrying a box of cinnamon rolls with her.
I remember that.
And it totally threw the guy off. He was just like, "What? She's like, "Yeah, we can go, pardon it." And he just shut right down and just walked away. So you were able to continue through the area.
Yeah. So luckily I am better at that now, though, because I have gone through a couple Horror Nights.
Yeah, she went through Horror Nights fine.
Now I'm fine now. So I figured
a couple of times, the one time she was even like, "What's wrong with you, Mike? Don't be a bitch. Come on, it's not that scary." Right? This from the PG maze, so she's like wetting herself.
Yeah, then, I was a more mature person. And I realized it wasn't. I didn't need to always be like I'm all freaked out.
All I know is that I remember when we went to Horror Nights for the first time there, that it was like I'm not going behind you.
I know. It was very, very clear that was not happening. So I had to suck it up and deal with it because... And I have conquered that fear where Mike's like, nope, I'm going first.
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine. We'll play you can go to your doom first.
I can be the man.
You can be the man. And I had to just suck it up and make sure nothing came after me, and I was okay.
And the only time that has really been problematic was there's been a couple of things in the Horror Nights maze that have been problems for me, though. Lights.
And for some reason, I've never been able to, let him live those down.
They use a certain light. It's a spinning light.
Yes.
And it messes up my equilibrium.
Yeah.
And they use it in a few mazes where you're walking down halls.
Because then you feel like you're spinning, right?
It's kind of like a spinning thing, but that totally throws me off, and I lose my footing. It's not so much like a scared thing. I actually lose my footing.
Well, yeah. It's disorienting, right?
And then the other maze was the Insidious maze. And it was because we were on the VIP tour, and we had 20 people in this thing, and they were like, send that guy first. Yeah. And I'm like, what the crap? Like, why? So
he looked too confident.
Right? I'm just like, woo!
I'm just happy to be here.
And, but we got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And, because there was people in wheelchairs going through. And something happened with the wheelchair, it died or something.
Yeah, we couldn't just keep moving.
So we were bottlenecked up, so we were stuck there. And the thing kept coming out.
Okay, I'm done now. Oh my God, I'm done now.
I don't know what that actor would have been thinking that entire time. They came charging out into the cage and rattling the cage. There. And it was more or less, it got unnerving because it was just we were there for almost a minute.
It was just the same.
Usually you just walk through and you don't really get a lot of time to there's sometimes where you can slow down, right? But that time was the time where it was just you can stop now.
Well, it's like an overwhelming of senses, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much scary as it's okay to have those little scares, but then your body is probably starting to go in a bit of an overload, right? Where you can't help it but jump a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there's just so much going on. I think it was also
the trapped feeling. Yeah. I couldn't go forward. I couldn't go back. I had no space.
You're a trapped animal.
Yeah, I had no space. And so those are the times that have really been on that.
It's a good time. I miss Horror Nights.
I miss Horror Nights, yeah. I told them that.
And I'm very sad that we weren't able to do it all the years we lived down there. And Mike will never, ever let me live that down.
You did this to this family.
You can see his face right now.
But I told them I
brought you on VIP tour of Horror Nights, though.
And that is the best way to do it. If you are, unless you can go multiples, but if you can get the front of line or the VIP tour,
only way to go now.
Do that, because having unlimited access to the maze front of line was like a godsend. It was you were Willy, you were Charlie in Wonka's factory.
Here's my golden ticket.
Here's my golden ticket.
Past the 3-hour line.
Yeah,
I want it.
And it just made things so much better, because the first time we went, we didn't have that access.
It was so stressful to be like, what mazes do we hit first so that we can at least?
And we missed out, and we didn't get to do things a couple times. The second year that we went, we were able.
Everything was at least done twice.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah, I think we went through that Ash maze 5 times.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Krampus.
Right. So, but I told them I'm going to make my own maze this Halloween, because we're not doing trick or treating.
Well, because we figure we've always talked about the idea of watching horror movies on Halloween, but we always go out trick or treating.
Yeah.
And I think this year we'll finally get to watch horror movies.
And Kiddo has said that he doesn't want to do trick or treating. He wants to just have a Halloween party at home.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna make a maze.
We're gonna make our own maze. I don't know how.
Kiddo was like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna just be my year to be Freddy Krueger. Surprise, bitch! You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sleep on Halloween, apparently.
Wait. If we just hide, he can't find us, because he says we can't hide. But if we hide? I love the Rick and Morty Scary Terry episode.
If you haven't seen it, you need to.
Yeah,
if you are a fan of Freddy Krueger, you need to watch that episode.
Yeah, the Scary Terry episode.
So good.
So good. Yeah. So yes, this sparks off our kickoff for
Apparently we're kicking off Halloween
movies. Mamra. See, Thundercats tied into the whole Egyptian thing.
See?
Because Third Earth is a third cycle of Earth, and it shows that something hinky that the Egyptians did way back survives.
Yeah.
And
he's still
Mama
there.
He's
ever living.
So
they just can't get rid of him.
I did find that there is some Hitchcock films on our on demand, so I was curious about looking at The Birds and Psycho. And,
I haven't watched Psycho for a really long time.
You wanted to see Tremors and stuff like that again, so because that's a rite of passage on your family side.
Yes, that is one of my father's favorite movies of all time, and So
yeah, I think these next few weeks we're going to be dipping our toes into spooky movies
and Thundercats.
Oh. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Stay rad.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Want more rad content? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review.
And remember, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes!